All right, I'd like to welcome in my guest, Charles Fishbein, Elite Scouting Services, to talk about Henry Parrish, Kevin Smith. What's going on, Charles?
Doing great, man. I'm glad to be back on, and it's always fun. So,
Yeah, as soon as the news broke with Henry Parrish, and if people that didn't see transfer from Ole Miss decided to enter the portal, I had an article on InsideTheU.com, some information there. You guys can check that out. But as soon as his name popped up, I immediately thought of you, Charles. We've talked about him quite a bit when he was playing at Columbus. Just your initial thoughts on him as a player.
we always talk about this when we're evaluating guys: is do they stand out? When do they stand out? And he was basically the guy that carried that Columbus team to a state championship that year. You also had Xavier, but Parrish was the guy. Every game we went to, it didn't matter if it was a kickoff return, punt return, him taking a jet sweep, him catching a ball, making a play on defense. It just seemed like he was always making plays no matter what. And I just think that's huge when you're evaluating someone, especially in the games that matter most. The championship game, you remember that final drive. He was the main reason they won the game. I mean, they were basically out of it, and he did some Houdini stuff, and Columbus won their first state championship, or one of their first. I believe it was their first, at least while we were covering them. So
Yeah, and that you touched on the playoff games. There's a couple that stand out to me. Obviously, that state championship game, he catches a touchdown pass, as you mentioned. There's a senior, 8 seconds left, and they get the 2 point conversion, go ahead and win that game. That was impressive. He had an impressive run, and then I remember, just taking it back the year before as a junior. He goes against South Dade. For people that don't remember them, they had four Division I guys. The two guys at UCF, Jeremiah Jean Baptiste, Jaden Francois, then the two Miami guys, Tyler Johnson, Keyshawn Washington. He rips up over 200-yard rushing in that game, three touchdowns. Scored another catch in the ball. But he was a guy, like you said, he just always produced. And I thought he should have been a high priority for Miami at the time. I just thought his ability was there. And you talk about production at the running back position. And I do think, it's going to be very interesting to see how this thing works out with him in Miami. If he's going to be a fit there. For people that say, look, Miami's got Jalen Knighton and Don Chaney Jr., saw some flashes last year with that, Franklin, and then Cody Brown got in there. But just if he does come to Miami, how do you see this running back room kind of fitting? And do you think he's a guy that essentially should Miami take?
Well, his versatility, the ability to him and Knight could basically be in the same backfield, and then all of a sudden you could put one in motion, get them in the slot, whether it's Knight or Parrish. They're both kind of similar backs in that they're versatile enough to play multiple positions. You don't have to pigeonhole these guys. Hey, they're in the backfield. You want defensive coordinators to have to account for these guys, that they don't know where they're going to go. And if you get him one-on-one with the linebacker, it's basically over. So his ability, anytime you can add a playmaker to your offense, a guy that can take it to the house on any single play, you've got to add those guys. You can never have enough of them. When Miami was at its highest in 2021, Willis McGahee was basically an afterthought because they had so many other guys. Everybody's like, oh, Frank Gore, this, Clinton Portis, James Tate, all the guys they had. And then, you go, running backs get banged up. And then all of a sudden you have this four-string guy in there, and that guy's better than everybody else, backs that are on other teams. And that's how Miami's going to get back to that next level of playing for championships, is having too many of these guys. Everybody sits there. I had a chance to speak with, one of our favorite coaches, PJ Fleck, just like 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. And he had a kid, was like 7th or 8th on the depth chart, that had a big bowl game. And he goes, Fish, he went in the portal because we had so many backs. And I said, PJ, you obviously didn't have enough backs because you went down to the 6th or 7th back. And that's what happens. They play 12, 13 games now. It's more like a pro season than a college season anymore. And you can never have enough of these guys. You saw last year, Knight didn't get to play the first few games. Chaney got hurt and was out for the year. Harris got hurt. All of a sudden, you're down to your third or fourth string running back. And you don't want to be in that position if you're playing. What Miami wants to do is play for championships. So this kid gives them another great piece to the pie. And the good thing is he has experience. He's proven it already at the college level. This isn't one of those kids that entered the portal that hasn't played or made an impact and was terrible and was just like, all right, let me go in the portal. And he's an old name. No, he's produced at the highest of levels. I mean, he even showed some ability in their bowl game. He's a very talented player. He'd be a great addition to the Miami football team.
Yeah, and obviously we touched on his high school stuff. Look, he's progressed since then. He's had 2 productive years at Ole Miss. They've had other guys, but when he's got in there, he's got his opportunity. You touched on producing against good teams. Had a good game as a true freshman against LSU a couple years ago. Did well. His only 100-yard game was against a ranked Arkansas team this year. Averaged 5.1 yards a carry in these 2 seasons, which is higher than Chaney and Knighton. So he's done, and he's ran for more yards than these 2 guys too. All 3 of them have been very interesting as we've evaluated them since high school. They're all in that same 2020 recruiting class. And I know, you like certain guys or not, but they all bring something different to the table. And you touched on, just having the amount of backs, and you touched on PJ Fleck, and obviously I'm aware of what's going on there. And the guy you're talking about, Kai Thomas, shout out to my hometown there. But, it's just interesting to see, with where Miami's at. And for people that don't want to add another back in or a guy that's been producing, look, Miami was 12th in the ACC in rushing last year, last in the conference in yards per carry. You might like the guys they have, but they've got to get better. I mean, I think that's ultimately with what we're seeing across the board at all positions with Miami. 7-5, there's reasons for that. I know they made the changes at coaching, but they've got to improve their overall depth and their overall quality at positions. And I think it does. I think they got to get better at running back.
And the one thing that it brings is competition. We talked about this. It just makes guys better when they know they're not going to be just handed the job. Nobody on that team, when you're 7-5, nobody deserves a starting job. Like, this is a new staff. Every job's open. You have to fight. And the more guys that are in that backfield and have to compete for that job, what are you going to get out of it, Chaney? Chaney's going to go, all right, maybe in the past he's had an injury that's a little bit nagging. He may sit there and go, you know what, I better not sit on that bench unless I'm really, really injured. I got to push myself. And you're going to get more out of these other guys than you ever thought before because the backfield is loaded. That's how Miami became great. They've always been great. It's not that first guy or that second guy. It's that wave of talent. That's what makes Florida, Georgia and Alabama so good right now, is that when they bring in that second and third and fourth guy, those guys are every bit as good as the starters. And that's what wears other teams down. That's how you get to that 10th, 11th, 12th win. Listen, everybody has in college football, most of these teams have a very good top 22, top 30 guys they can rely on. It's when that depth starts to kick in, you get into game 8, 9, 10, and your backs are fresh because these guys aren't carrying it 200 and 300 times. Last year, I think there was a game Knighton carried it 30 times. That's not his strength. You know that. I know that. How much better would he have been if that was a 15, 18 carry a game and he had other guys in there? You would have seen his yards per play go up. Everything about him would have been a lot better. That's not Knighton's style. I don't even think it's Chaney or any of the other guys that they have style either. They need guys at 15, 17, 18 carries. They rotate those backs in. That's how college football is now, even the pros. It's not just having these guys carry it 25, 30, 40 times. That's not how you're going to have success at this level. Miami's putting themselves in a position where their backfield is not only going to be very talented, maybe one of the best in the AC, if not the country.
You touched on that game with Knighton. It always stood out to me. He had that 162 yards against Georgia Tech. Then after that, that's when the Florida State game came up. 16 carries, 32 yards, got bottled up there. The next 2 games to finish. So the next 3 games after that Georgia Tech, that big game where he had 32 carries, he didn't rush for 4 yards a carry in any game after that. So
he's probably beat up. His body needs time to recover. It's not like Knighton's a big back. He's not a 220. He's not the kid at Wisconsin that's a big back that you could pound these guys between the tackles, for 30 plays a game. It's just that's not the style and way the game's played anymore.
And Parrish isn't that guy either. But again,
No.
It's a guy that's been productive. You touched on his pass catching ability, and I think that would be certainly a benefit. And again, with those 2 guys you keep talking about, we keep talking about with Chaney and Knighton, reliability. Both of them have the issues. Chaney with his injuries, and then Knighton with the 4-game suspension last year. You don't know if that's behind him completely. but 4 games is 4 games. We've seen a lot of college football guys. 4 games is a lot for suspension, so we don't know. I certainly hope he's able to be out there, but I think as a coaching staff, a new coaching staff coming in, they always have to be wary of guys like that have had situations in the past. And again, Chaney's coming off this injury. We'll see how he bounces back. I think it's a big year. All 3 of these guys, wherever Parish ends up, and I think with year 3 for a running back, they've all had their own taste of success and shown flashes. But I just think year 3, and it's a big year. Chaney obviously has got to get back from his injury, but Knighton understood what it took last year, and certainly I'm sure he would even tell you it wasn't good enough last year. So big offseason for all 3 of these guys.
There's no question. Listen, they're in a lot better spot with all 3 of them than to just have one. All 3 of these guys were very talented coming out of high school. They all had their strengths and weaknesses. Now I believe we had them like 1, 2, 3 in the state, or right there that year in that class. You could argue who was the better of the backs. They've got all of them now. So they have a chance to be really, really good in that backfield. Mario likes to run the football, be very physical up front. You see where he's trying to get better is up front with the O-line, bringing other guys in. This is where, Miami's going to get back to pounding the ball, being very successful, winning first down. 2nd and 7 is not a bad thing. I know a lot of fans may not say that, but you got to win first down. And the way you win first down is you're able to run the ball effectively. And all 3 of these guys bring something and they all have the ability to break a long run. That's something that, it's very important. You can't just have 10, 12, 14 play drives. It's great to be able to sustain drives, but you need guys that can break the long runs, get easy touchdowns. And all 3 of these guys have that ability.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see. I'm kind of going back the last time Miami's been ranked in the top 5 in the ACC in rushing, and it goes back 2010. It's been that long since Miami's had a top 5 rushing attack in the ACC. Very surprising, very disappointing considering all the names that have come through here over the years. And before that, obviously a lot of success. Let's talk about Miami's running back coach. I'm very interested in Kevin Smith. For people that don't know, he was from Southridge, 2005 recruit, really interesting recruit, 2-star prospect, goes to UCF, runs for over 1,000 yards in his first year. Then year 3, over 2,500 yards. It was the 2nd highest at that time in NCAA history. So now the 3rd highest. Goes on to be drafted, plays 5 years for the Detroit Lions. I'm always interested in Kevin Smith's stories as a recruit because that production's ridiculous for him to do that. Do you have a good memory of Kevin Smith as a player? What do you remember of him? And I've heard different stories that I'll probably chime in if you don't touch on, but do you have something?
I mean, it's funny. Back then, Rutgers used to have their satellite camps. They had one of them at Miami Palmetto High School, and Kevin Smith was one of the best players there at the camp. And the problem was he was such a big back that even Rutgers was looking at him as a linebacker. And O'Leary convinced him, hey, listen, you could come here and be a running back, be that big back, because most schools liked, Rutgers had Ray Rice. They had these guys that were more 5'8", 5'9". Kevin was he was 6+ and 200 and plus pounds. You're talking a kid that was like 220 in college. He was very good. He was a great high school running back. But like I said, most schools projected him at linebacker. He didn't want to hear that. He chose UCF, and he had a great career. It's not surprising. What's surprising is that he wasn't recruited heavier, especially coming from Southridge. But back then, Southridge was kind of one of those schools that some of the kids got overrated. He was a very underrated prospect, and he had a great career at UCF, and he made the right decision. We talk about this. Not every kid has to go to the big 3 to have success. This is a kid that did have success at the lower level, and it's great for him. I would have never thought he would have gotten coaching, when he was finished with his pro career, but it's great. And you've seen him move up quickly. He worked his way up from a GA to a running back coach, and now he's coming back home to be the running back coach at University of Miami. And listen, the last time Miami had a coach from Southridge, they had a lot of success in Donnie Solinger. So hopefully, Kevin could repeat some of that success and bring Miami back to the top.
Yeah, it's going to be very important for Kevin. Obviously, his ties to South Florida. He's got to recruit in South Florida. That's why he's coming in to join the staff. He's got to get, he's got to improve the running back room in terms of their ability, their production, everything. And I think that he can, obviously, he's had success. Touched on him as a coach at FAU, and then at Ole Miss, they've ran the ball well with their guys, and guys have chances to be in the NFL. So we will see how things work out with Kevin Smith. Henry Parrish, definitely stay locked in on Inside the U for updates on him. I definitely appreciate you, Charles, jumping on here quick. Always, anytime I got a reason to hit you up for this, I always do. So definitely appreciate you joining me, and hopefully you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing well. And anytime you want me to come on, hit me up. We're good.